In the past year, more than 1,200 people have been killed on our roads, and each tragedy does send shockwaves through entire communities.
Now, a group of Australians who've all lost loved ones to road trauma are coming together to say enough is enough. They want better education for our young drivers and tougher penalties for those who inflict the damage.
A 16-year-old boy has died after their ute crashed into a tree overnight.
A teenager was killed in a horrific crash in Toowoomba.
A teenage girl is dead after the stolen SUV she was in smashed into a truck.
Every time you see another crash on the TV or you hear it on the radio, you know exactly what those poor parents or that family are going to be going through, and it just makes you sick to the stomach.
I first met Nigel Smith last year, sharing the story of his son Lachlan with high school students in Western Sydney.
He'd only just turned 18, had an amazing future ahead of him, just like you guys.
3 weeks after his 18th birthday, Lachlan was killed instantly when the car he was a passenger in crashed.
Everyone talks about it being your worst nightmare, and it truly is.
In this room, everyone understands.
Sorry that you're part of this group, and welcome to the group. This is a safe space.
The Road Trauma Support Group New South Wales was born out of too many personal tragedies. Its mission now is to stop anyone else needing to join it. They let me sit in on a meeting to help share their message.
What would be the one thing that you would want them to know?
It has to stop. It's getting worse. It has to stop.
That our loved ones are not a statistic. They're not a number. My son was killed on Christmas Eve and he's just put down as a number.
Nicholas Honsalars is not a number.
He had this aura about him as if he'd been here before. He had a smile that lit up the world, and he was a true friend.
And you said before he was a good kid, he just got in the wrong car.
Yeah, he just made a wrong decision.
Nicholas was a passenger in a speeding car that smashed into a power pole at Leppington in Sydney's West on Christmas Eve 2020. The court process dragged on for 2.5 years.
He actually pled guilty to manslaughter, and the judge only gave him 2.5 years non-parole out of a maximum 25 that was on the table.
Do you feel like the manslaughter was treated differently because it was a car and not a gun?
Absolutely. The current laws, the current system, the way that it is, it's failing. And it's failing not only me, it's going to fail you, and it will fail every other person who comes after us.
That's something Duncan Wakes-Miller knows all too well.
I spent more money on parking fees than the perpetrator paid in fines for killing my son when he was a drunk driver.
Duncan's son Barney was a passenger in this car, driven by a 17-year-old who, by law, we can't identify. His punishment? Losing his licence for 12 months.
I think if you kill someone, you should go to jail.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
That's one of the things this group is now pushing for. They want the New South Wales government to introduce specific road crime legislation and consider mandatory minimum jail terms. They also want driver education to be a formal part of the high school curriculum. The state's top traffic cop says police can't enforce their way out of this problem. It's up to all of us.
It's just unacceptable. These are avoidable. Each day I'm reviewing information, investigations that are going on in relation to the loss of life on our roads, and just about every one of them is avoidable. They're not accidents, they're crashes. Changing that language and changing our mindset, a small ask from those who've already lost too much.
Yes, some really beautiful families that I met there, and that's one thing that they want us all to do. We don't call it an accident, we call it a crash, and we all just need to be more careful when we're in the car.
A real salient message. Thanks, Jane, for that. Well, change of pace now, and with music that has really stood